This is Business Inspires, the podcast of the Tri-Village Chamber Partnership. To run a successful business, you need resources, valuable connections, and community recognition. Business Inspires will provide you with the tools, resources, and examples to inspire you to create the business you're envisioning. This episode is brought to you by the Tri-Village Chamber Partnership. Our innovative and active chamber is successful because of our smart and engaged members who cultivate our strong business community.
Boost your business with LBB Edutainment. Our expert strategies and coaching empower leaders and teams to transform your workplace culture and inclusivity. Let's create a better world of work today. Begin at lbbedutainment.com.
Grandview Heights seamlessly combines timeless charm with a modern vision.
This is Yasmin Robles, the Chief Sparkle Strategist at Robles Designs. We specialize in creating drool-worthy websites, stunning brands, and innovative marketing strategies for entrepreneurs who are hell-bent on taking over the world. Get started today at roblesdesigns.com.
The city of Upper Arlington, where superior services and citizens come first.
Welcome to Business Inspires, where our goal is to inspire you to create the business you envision. I'm Brett Johnson, Tri-Village Chamber Partnership board member and the owner of Circle 270 Media Podcast Consultants. Thank you for following and subscribing to the podcast. With me is Katie Ellis, President and CEO of the Tri-Village Chamber Partnership and co-host of the podcast. It's great to be here with you, Katie.
So happy to be here. And we have the wonderful Mayor Greta Kearns of the city of Grandview Heights. Mayor Kearns, thank you so much for taking time to be with us this morning and share what's going on with you.
Thank you. Good to be with you, Brett and Katie.
So we'll just jump right in because the city of Grandview Heights has had a busy few years. Can you get us caught up to speed with what's been going on?
Well, we have indeed. Thank you. As stated, I'm Mayor Greta Kearns. I'm in my fifth year of office. I was just reelected to my second term. So that means I first took office in January of 2020. And I knew coming in that I would have a large transition on my hands. I followed Mayor Ray DeGraw, a four-term mayor. The city had gone through a tremendous amount of change and challenge during his terms and was recovering from economic distress. But internally, also, a lot of the senior staff members, a lot of the institutional knowledge base, if you will, had lined up their retirements with his. And so I would be dealing with, I knew, a large transition in our senior leadership and be not only appointing, but building out certain functions, appointing a new police chief, a new fire chief, a new director of administration. We did not have an IT department. We had our former fire chief who was covering the IT function for decades. And that was something that was definitely on my radar as a tremendous need to deal with. In short, we were building capacity. And again, we had gone through several decades of, I would say, underinvestment because of necessity due to very, very conservative budgeting that really left us with only the bare bones and the basics and not any room for looking to the future and building out the capacity. And really the information age happened during that time period, my predecessor's administration, which dramatically changed operations of every business, every government across the world. So if I can just keep talking, and I took office, and then of course 8 weeks later we started hearing about this COVID virus in China, and the pandemic hit. And that obviously made us change our operations. We went through the same thing every other organization went through in terms of, shutdowns, restrictions, illnesses. We platooned some of our service crews. We didn't cut any services. I was very proud that we were able to get through that without cutting services. We diminished our recycling services really for only a few months. And then we brought it back very quickly once we got on our feet. But this again was during the backdrop of a very dramatic transition in staffing and senior level knowledge base. As well as an absence of a technology and communications infrastructure in the sense that, a modern organization needed. So we built that out during that time. And I'm very proud 4 years later, that we have I think not only build it out, but we're doing great. We have we've dramatically expanded our reach, not only on social media, but we've added different platforms. We've got a 311. We've got something called Growing Together, which is a project-based platform, and all of our public meetings during the pandemic went to virtual. And so we had to build that function out, and we're really doing very well there. We finally, I think, are comfortable. I think that we're covering that function and are, I think, competitive with other organizations really in a short period of time. Our basic operations are safety services. And part of what I think we had to do and what we've done successfully is build some depth. We've added assistant chiefs in both safety departments. We've added, just a lot more talent. I guess I wouldn't say a lot more, but we've strategically invested in the right talent and have a bench, so to speak, so that we can continue to provide services for years to come and will be stable. And I'm just very proud of that. The other thing that I had, any mayor would have had to deal with was, again, decades of underinvestment, not only in our operational capacity, but in our critical infrastructure. And when I took office, that was really beyond critical in terms of the building we're sitting in, which is our police, fire, and city hall building. It's 100 years old this year. And really the fiscal situation that happened with the pandemic meant people went home. They didn't pay their income tax where they're working. They paid it where they're working at home. That dramatically shifted our model. And the decision was made that, it's really now or never. We've got to go to the voters we'd been saving money to rebuild this building. We didn't have enough. And so the decision was made to go to the voters, and the voters were very, very supportive of our request in 2022 to fund a new facility. And so we're in the midst of that project now. And, in sum, those are the big changes we've been dealing with respect to our operations. There's other projects going on that we can talk about too, but I'm very, very pleased with how far we've come. It's a fantastic organization. It's a wonderful community. One of the things I really I think we're so blessed to have is a wonderful staff, both kind of the legacy staff members that I inherited, as well as new people who have come in since I took office. And those are, I think, the heart and soul of how we deliver our services. So I'm grateful for that every day.
So with everything that has happened since you walked in the office to today, have you been able to sit down and take a deep breath and just exhale?
I have. Yes,
Good.
really have.
Good.
And I think probably about 2022, 2023, that happened.
Good.
Yeah, but it was very different from what I expected. And also really just as rewarding, if not more than what I was hoping.
Wow. Yeah. So you mentioned the two new facilities you're building that you broke ground on last fall. Where are you in the process? When can they expect to be open?
They're coming along. And just let me give you some background. So I mentioned the building I'm sitting in, which is as I mentioned before we went on, the fire department, our bays are right over here. Our police department is on the other side, and our municipal services, our office functions are kind of all around. This is the building that really was driving the project, because if we can't, if we can't deliver the safety services, we don't exist as a city. We had been planning for years to move it what we call down the hill, which is at the corner of Goodale and Grandview. It's where our Parks building is now. And it really became clear during our master planning that the Parks building needed to move. Well, the Parks building really wasn't in the plan for funding. It was functioning. It's not, state of the art, but in that we decided the best solution was to move it and rebuild it. And we are very proud that we were able to do so within the budget. Essentially, we've used saved cash plus the voted bond to finance the whole project. It's about a $35 million project between the two buildings. The Parks building is moving west of where I'm sure people who have driven through Grandview know where the gardens are, moving just a little bit past the woods there to a small park called McKinley Field Park, which is a really precious, beautiful setting with woods. It borders on the rail line and the railroad right of way at what is now essentially not abandoned, but not really utilized rail line. So it's a wonderful place for Parks and Rec to make their home. It really opens up their opportunities. Our Parks and Rec is beloved in the community. They have expanded really on a dime, I would say they have expanded their programs to meet the needs and then some of the community. And so to move them into this setting is going to be extremely beneficial for the community. It also opens up the large space down the hill for police and fire, for really almost a doubling of the building size. The Parks building is starting to be framed. If you drive down Goodale, you can see it. It looks larger than I even envisioned. It's Grandview scale. It's human scale, if you will, and it should be open later this year. And so we are, always the schedule is always, a moving target, but we are anticipating an opening in late fall. And that's for Parks. That's good because that's after their busy season. The other facility is really just starting to come out of the ground, and we're putting in the pad. Foundations are in, and mid to late fall of 2025 is what we are shooting for. So all of those, again, very exciting. The fire department, I should mention, has their 100-year anniversary this year. The building, again, is 100 years old. That was the first time, essentially, Grandview decided to be its own fire service provider, and we still are today, and we're very, very proud of this.
That's fantastic. And as a Grandview resident, I can give my kudos as well to the Parks and Rec department. We love all of the programs, and they do an outstanding job.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
So, yeah, and change can be good, albeit difficult sometimes. How is Grandview Heights managing the change that's happening as a result of Central Ohio as a whole growing?
Well, we're a dynamic community, and I have to say, we're used to change, and I think we have it's hard. Change is hard, but on the whole, we have benefited far more than it has worked to our detriment, and we really embrace it and welcome it. And we really don't have a choice. But I think I would much rather have a community like this who is open to change than to be stagnant. We're 1.3 square miles. We are essentially surrounded by a very vibrant urban area, and we, surrounded by mostly Columbus, but we have Marble Cliff, who is a village to our west, and then Upper Arlington. And it's a region that is, again, growing and dynamic and exciting. We have welcomed 20 new businesses in the last year. I think that's tremendous for a post-pandemic situation for, again, a town that's no bigger than a mile, really. We have fantastic office space in several areas throughout the community. It's an amenity-rich community. It's extremely walkable and bikeable. We have a good brand. People, have fond memories of being here, and there's a reason for that. It's a really great place to live, work, and play. We're in a great location, as I mentioned, and we have welcomed a lot of new residents. We've added, actually, it's tremendous. We've added over 1,500 new housing units. You can't open the paper without hearing about the number of people that want to make the Columbus region their home and the housing challenges that we have. And we've embraced that. We grew our population nearly 25% between the 2010 and the 2020 census. And again, we are open to change. We welcome new residents, new neighbors to our community, and we try to do our best to mitigate the negative effect and really embrace it.
Yeah, you mentioned that change is hard. You look backwards, and when the yard was just being discussed, I remember the rumbling about that going, no, nobody wanted change, but talk about that was a positive change that worked to every favor.
It was very positive, and I have to give credit to the leaders before who focused on planning for the future and understanding how to navigate through that change. And you have to begin with the end in mind and know what you're going for. And I think they did a very nice job of that. And really, I've been in office a little over 10 years, and really have seen that happen on a scale that I didn't imagine during that just really short time.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Well, Grandview Heights has quite a bit planned for 2024, but everybody needs to be informed. So how can businesses, residents, and visitors stay updated on the latest news and events that are happening?
Yeah. Well, I said we build out our communications infrastructure, and we not only build it out, but we got to, I think, a point that's enviable among municipalities, really, where we are very, very, very broad reach and very good engagement. In addition to the social media platforms, we have something called 311, which in many communities is known, probably, Columbus, you may be familiar with that. If you see a pothole, you can have it fixed. You can just snap a picture and turn it in, and people do that. It's also a good platform to really stay informed about not only things like public meetings, but, urgent safety alerts, road closures that happen in the middle of the day that were not planned. It's app-based. It's been very beneficial internally for us as a workflow management tool as well. Growing Together is another platform we put together. That's really a project-based. And if I may, I'd like to talk about our planning projects. And you asked about how people can stay informed. We want them to not only stay informed, but be engaged. We've been planning for the future. We've done some area planning, and that for those not familiar with city planning, change is coming. We can either let it happen to us, or we can plan what outcomes we want. And the latter is, of course, what we're always trying to do in city government. Right now, we are in the midst of a very broad-ranging First and Grandview area planning project. And the way people can stay informed about that is really to get engaged and come to the meetings about it, and also opt into our Growing Together platform to receive information and review all the work that's been done. Tonight, we have an open house. And if you can picture Grandview Avenue, again, beloved part of the community, heartbeat of the community, as well as First Avenue from Grandview and First over to the library. That's also beloved. It's a little different character. It's more civic than business focused, but we have an open house, and we've got stations set up, and we invite and encourage people to wander around, give their feedback, learn more about what investments we would like to make, and give us your feedback on what you would like to see, and things that are working well, inspiring your hopes and dreams. And also, look, I really wish you'd fix this up and make this different. I really can't stress enough how important that project is to our community. Like I said, people have fond memories of Grandview. They mostly remember Grandview Avenue when they think about that, their college days, their post-college days. We want it to be its best. And my whole administration, we've been, moving towards the future and embracing progress, while also not forgetting about our past and understanding what our legacy is. So we're really trying to define that and have a broad range of public input in that as we go forward with this project.
I think it's really important that you state and there's, tread that's hitting the road, that when you do give input as a public, you're being heard.
Yes.
What you say is actually being heard, written down, put in place, that we discuss it. And it's an option, because that may not be the only voice that's saying the same thing. So voice up, talk about what your concerns are. I think that's really important, especially on Grandview's size. It should be hearing and listening, because every little thing matters.
That is one of the beautiful things about our community. I love local government, and it's really for that reason, is that it really does touch the people. It's, government in the purest form. And look, we get a lot of feedback. Not everybody is satisfied with the result of their feedback, but it is definitely heard and taken under consideration. And again, back to this project at First and Grandview, that's literally the point of it, is to get that feedback in an organized and systematic way and evaluate it. There are things the city has to do, like invest in the roads and the infrastructure up there, but we're not coming into this with really a large preconceived notion of what it should look like, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. We want to hear what will make it better before we make those big investments. It's a fantastic community to really. It's a case study in how government should work.
Well, Mayor Kearns, we are so appreciative of your time again. It's been incredible to learn what's happened since you've come into office, the things that you've come up against, and the outcomes of what's happened since. Just an incredible job. Thank you so much. And is there anything else that you would like to leave our listeners with before we sign off?
Well, no, thank you both for this opportunity. In preparing for this, we were joking with internally about I could go on for 20 minutes about any one of these topics. So it's good that you make me stop talking now. But this is a really, again, fantastic community. It's the residents, it's the businesses, and it's our staff all working together to make it that. And it's something to cherish and something I really. Again, this is for me, it's one of the most rewarding experiences I could ever imagine. But, I talked about leaving the legacy on Grandview Avenue. And I think the legacy is stewardship for the entire community to make sure our safety services can function and that we survive as a city. That's a huge thing that I'm extremely proud of. So I'm very grateful for the residents' support of us. And I encourage people to continue to have their voice heard and be involved.
Well, thanks again, Mayor Kearns, for joining us. Yeah, listeners, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to check out our podcast page on the Tri-Village Chamber website. Look for the podcast tab at the top of the homepage and tell us what you think about this or any of our other episodes at info@chamberpartnership.org.
Did you know sponsoring a Tri-Village Chamber event not only builds brand awareness, but expands your network? Our chamber unites hundreds of businesses and individuals through meaningful relationships, educational programming, exclusive resources, and awesome events. Sponsorship supports our efforts to build and strengthen the community. To find out which opportunities are best for you, contact me directly at Katie, Katie, @chamberpartnership.org. Thanks for partnering with us.
Thanks for listening to Business Inspires. Check out the podcast show notes for information about this podcast, to schedule a guest appearance, or to find out more about sponsoring this podcast.